Hi there and welcome to my latest YouTube video. This time we're going to have a look at a Stuka, in particular the Ju-87 D5 as presented by Special Hobby. Many people know this was originally an Academy kit released in 2002 as the G1 tank buster. Very well received at the time, assembled quite easily and with a good level of detail, and what's happened now is that Special Hobby have taken that kit as a sort of base and try to improve it by adding new parts, both injection molded and photo etched. As well as changing the parts, they've also changed the variant. They've changed the G1 to the D5. Interesting. Let's see how it works out, shall we? The kit parts are spread across 7 separate sprues, and 6 of them come from the original kit, but the 7th is added by Special Hobby to enable the earlier variant to be built. The original Academy parts are cleanly moulded with a good level of detail, and the inscribed panel lines are done very effectively. The Special Hobby parts are even better, have a bit more detail and sharpness about them that augurs well for the finished model. The wheels here give an example of what I'm talking about. The new parts are essentially about replacing the parts on the D that were taken away when the G appeared, namely bombs, bomb racks and dive brakes. However, some improved cockpit detail and undercarriage parts are also included. You can see here the photo etch sheet, which is fairly basic but good enough to improve the standard of the finished model without adding too much to the difficulty of the build. Very extensive and slightly unusual decal sheet covering 4 of the Axis Allied nations that fought with the Germans. There are the Romanian, Hungarian, Slovak or Bulgarian options, and they're accompanied by a very good painting and placement guide, as you can see in the picture here. The only aftermarket product I included in this build is the special masking set here. Obviously for the Stuka and its fairly extensive glazing, this must be considered a bit essential. Construction commenced with the cockpit interior. This was considerably enhanced by the extra parts provided by Special Hobby. There were photo etched seat belts and rudder pedals, with plastic parts either replacing or adding to most of the original Academy items. Optional pilot bulkheads are provided for either an open or closed canopy, but experience showed that the open canopy option doesn't work, so the closed one, at least for the pilot, is the one to go for. The completed cockpit was very well detailed indeed, and certainly considerable improvement over the original kit. The only issues were the instrument panel, which was left as the original item plus a decal. This looked alright, but a photo etch film effort would have been better. Also, the fit of 1 or 2 of the new parts wasn't always good. The tab on the new pilot bulkhead was way too big for the slot on the cockpit floor, and when the whole cockpit was assembled, a bit of trimming was required to get the fuselage halves to mate together cleanly. This was partly due to the positioning of the ammo boxes in the rear cockpit, parts X3 and 4, which I've indicated here, where location's a bit vague and needs checking with a dry fit of the fuselage halves to ensure that they are seated in the right place. Before the fuselage halves are joined, the integrally moulded rudder needs removing. A Special Hobby produced a replacement item. The wing assembly is well engineered, with a single piece lower wing ensuring the tricky dihedral and hedral angles of the cranked wing were taken care of, but some surgery was required to fit the main bomb rack. This had been removed from the G variant, so it needs to be put back for the D. To do so, a rectangular section under the centre of the wing needed to be removed and replaced with a new part to take the bomb and its shackles. The area to be removed is clearly marked, and the only problem was the thickness of the plastic there, which necessitated the use of a Dremel for the main cutting, with some careful file work to tidy it all up. Once this was done, the replacement part fitted well. Also here, the bomb racks under the wings, replacement items from Special Hobby, needed fitting as well. They took a little bit of persuading and a little bit of filler to get the job done right, but no problem in the end. Here you see the major parts ready for assembly. So far everything has been reasonably straightforward, with few problems encountered integrating the new parts with the originals. Let's see if that continues. Putting it together, we found that the forward fuselage coaming went on very well. The engine pod went on pretty well, but needed a little bit of filling around its rear edge. The rear coaming was a bit trickier, and as you can see from the amount of filling and blending here, it took a little bit more work to get that as we wanted it, but we managed in the end. Wing fuselage fit was okay. As you can see again, a little bit of filler at the leading and trailing edges, but really not too bad at all. Fuselage underside required a bit of attention. The rear section didn't align greatly, so needed a bit of sanding and filling to get that right. Also the joint between the rear wing edge and the fuselage. Under the radiator, a little bit of tidying up there, but nothing too serious. On the positive note, it's worth reminding ourselves of how nice the cockpit looked. The bombs came with photo etch fins, but fitting these was not straightforward. The fret in my sample was not particularly well etched, and that meant the fins couldn't be slotted together before fitting to the bomb casing. After a lot of fiddling around, the best solution proved to be to separate the fins into individual items and fit them singly. This was a pain that would have been avoided with a better etched fret, but the dive brakes, they're photo etched and they were well formed and look good. Once that's done, it's time for painting to begin. The main airframe and small parts, as you can see here, were all primed with Halford's grey plastic primer before being gently rubbed down and polished with a soft cloth. The main colours were acrylic lacquers from SMS, an Australian company who produced the 4 main colours in a single set. These worked well, giving a durable, smooth eggshell finish and drying more quickly than traditional lacquers used to do. The instructions say they can be sprayed straight from the bottle, but thinning a bit with the company's own thinner, 1 part thinner to 4 parts paint in this case, gave better results. Some clogging of the airbrush tip was encountered with extended use, but nothing like the extent to which it happens with some acrylics. The only downside is these SMS paints are solvent based and need to be sprayed in a well ventilated area. Although there are commercially available masking sets for the splinter camouflage scheme, a DIY masking job is not that difficult and is what happened here. Needless to say, the aforementioned canopy mask is essential, and it performed very well. I got mixed results with the kit decals. They were applied onto an eggshell surface which had been polished with a soft cloth. Some of them went on well, but others, particularly the smaller subjects such as the stencil data, silvered so badly that they had to be removed altogether. Gloss varnish would clearly have been a better option. The colourful Hungarian striping on the tailplane and rudder is provided as decals, but still needs some touching up with paint. Bearing in mind the issues I'd already had with the decals, I went for the painted on option. Not that difficult, and it beats decaling every time. Masking the national striping on the compound curves of the spinner is more difficult than on the flatter surfaces of the tail, but it's worth the effort. The completed model was given an overall coat of well-thinned Johnson's Kleer, with just the sliding rear section of the canopy left to be fitted. Unlike the pilot's canopy, it's possible to display this one in the open position, and doing so does add a little bit of interest to the model, I think. So, to conclude, this special hobby package, despite 1 or 2 issues, produces a very good representation of the Ju-87D. The overall level of detail, especially in the cockpit, and generally straightforward assembly means that for the moment this must be the definitive kit of the variant in this scale. The special hobby plan of taking a good kit and making it better has essentially worked, and no doubt similar kits of the other main Ju-87 variants are planned for the future. So there we are. Thank you very much for watching and listening. I hope you found the show informative and interesting. Hopefully see you again soon. Bye.